Some of y'all don't read books, and I don't mean that as an insult, but it's really part of the background to the ongoing debates and controversies on this channel. I said a long time ago in an interview with Vegan Cheetah, back when he was a friend of mine, that I do not think that books and magazine publications are all that important to what's going on in veganism, animal rights, etc. I think I got to take this jacket off. I'm cold. It's cold as hell in here, but I don't know if I can get through this broadcast with the overcoat on. Whew, brisk Kunming winter. I think it's understandable that some people really do not understand what I'm criticizing or why I would resort to language such as talking about stupidity and idiocy when I'm engaged in the critique of some of the seemingly respectable academic publications that come from our would-be leaders in the animal rights, ecology, veganism type of movement. I don't regret using words like stupid and idiot. I don't regret questioning aloud whether or not the people who've ended up, for the time being, as the leaders of our movement are idiots. On the contrary, I really look back and regret some of my videos where I make more balanced, polite, and seemingly flattering statements about their work, because I find their work shockingly, disturbingly, dangerously stupid. Let's get right to the meat of the thing here so that you know what I'm talking about and we're not just trading in generalizations. I'm going to read you a quote. This is from page 139 of Zoopolis, a book that I just did a very polite sort of critique of, a critique balanced with some flattering things said about the authors, etc., as is the style. This is page 139. I think all of the quotes I'm going to read are from the few pages following thereafter, say 139 to 169, but I did not note down the page number in every case here. Page 139. The authors of Zoopolis, Kymlicka and Donaldson, speculate, quote, "This does not mean that there will be no cows, just not very many. There will always be people who want to have cow companions, or pig companions, but the reality is that since these animals are less useful under non-exploitative conditions, fewer of them would be brought into the human-animal community. On the other hand, cautious commercialization of the use of cow's milk could lead it to becoming a luxury good, resulting in a limited but stable cow community." Why would anyone in veganism and animal rights be positively speculating about encouraging cautious commercialization of cow's milk in order to try to maintain a stable population of cattle on planet Earth? It's surreal. It's bizarre. It's idiotic. I will continue, still reading from the same page. Under the heading, Use of Animal Labor. So far, we have focused on cases in which humans benefit from using animals engaged in doing what they do naturally. Eating grass, growing wool, producing manure, eggs, and milk. So this is polite code for it. They've been talking about excuses for non-vegan, what I would consider exploitative and immoral relations between human and animals. But anyway, I digress. I shouldn't insert my gloss too much here. By the way, the coat I just took off, I know it looks a little bit ridiculous. This contains no wool. It is hard as hell to buy respectable-looking menswear in China that does not contain wool. Sheep's wool is the, every brand of clothing tries to use sheep's wool to raise the price and perceived value of the clothing they're making. It was hard as hell for me to get winter clothes that do not contain sheep's wool. But I do it because it's the fucking principle of the thing. All right, continuing here. A different form of use involves training animals to perform various kinds of work for humans, such as assistance and therapy training for dogs or police training for horses. It's not really stating honestly and directly what the fuck it is they're trying to say here. Like, they must know that vegans are going to be reading this with just a blanched expression. What the fuck are you doing? Why are you making excuses for wool, animal manure, eggs, chicken eggs, cow milk, and now training dogs and horses? Why is this even on the table? Why is this being negotiated? It's not like the other side is offering you something in negotiations. It's not like the meat-eating majority are sitting down and saying, okay, we'll all stop eating beef as long as you vegans agree to allow egg and milk production under some sort, as long as you vegans allow police to ride horses. Nobody's negotiating this. There's no reason to make these concessions. Either it's the principle of the thing. Like, I think in principle, police should not use horses. I've never heard someone make an argument akin to the fact that the military really does need to use aircraft carriers. Therefore, police really do need to use horses. Horses are just not that useful for police work. I'm sure police do all kinds of immoral things because it's really necessary. It's a life and death situation. I do not think horses are... But why even pretend we're in a situation of negotiating these things? It's ridiculous. Okay, sorry. Still reading the quote here. There are some jobs that dogs and other animals can perform without significant training. For example, if we return to Sheepville, we can imagine that the community also includes some dogs or donkeys who help to protect the sheep. What are you thinking? This protective behavior is a natural instinct, much nurtured by selective breeding of certain dogs that does not require much training. End quote. I don't mean this in an overly prejudicial way. I can't believe a vegan would even use the English language this way. The use of language here is so bizarre that you could have a community of humans exploiting sheep for wool production that includes dogs to help protect the sheep. This protective behavior is a natural instinct, much nurtured by selective breeding of certain dog breeds. So what? You're vegan, but you support selective breeding? Why? Why is this even on the table? If I was reading this in a pro-meat eater magazine, if I was reading this, why would this even be discussed or debated within our movement? To me, this is so off the wall. This is so beyond the limits of what would... And it's stupid. And the fundamental problem, I know some people are, object to my use of language like stupid, idiot, etc., etc. But I'm just being honest with you. My reaction to this is to say I do think stupidity is the fundamental problem here. It's not a problem of political bias or something. Okay, I'm sorry. I did not note down the page for this. I think this is from a few pages after the quote I've just read you. Continuing from Zoopolis. But this is a few pages later, as I recall. Quote, what about other animal products, such as eggs and milk? As in the case of sheep, the dangers here rapidly escalate with commercialization. If chickens or cows are brought into the world in order to derive profit from their eggs or milk, this will almost certainly entail sacrificing their basic rights. Currently, the egg system involves not only horrific confinement and abuse of hens, but the killing of male chicks and the killing of hens when their egg production levels off, all of which is needed to sustain profitability. But let us imagine citizen chickens. Pause. Yes, that's right. They just said citizen chickens. And they're not using the concept of citizen chickens to validate veganism. They're going to use the concept of citizen chickens to offer a justification for human beings eating eggs, for exploitation of chickens for I have to return to reading this quotation. Quote, this is published by Oxford University Press. This is not Durian Rider talking. Salaried professors publishing supposedly academic discourse at the ultra-elite level of our supposed intellectual leadership in this movement. Yes, I need to use words like stupid and yes, in my first video that people ignored the content of, where for 20 minutes, I did mention Nina and Randa, but I also mentioned, Will Kymlicka and the World Peace Diet by Will Tuttle and Gary Orofsky. I mentioned so many names in the video. I was expressing sincere concern that the leaders of our movement, the people who've ended up in leadership positions, who've ended up being published by Oxford University Press, I am concerned that these people are idiots. All right, let's continue reading here. But let us imagine citizen chickens whose rights are fully protected and who enjoy the same rights as other citizens. to be supported in leading a flourishing life. Domesticated hens produce many eggs. They could be allowed to incubate some fertilized eggs and have the opportunity to raise young and yet still have many surplus eggs. Indeed, it is possible to identify the sex of embryos in the egg and to allow hens to incubate females only or primarily. Oh my god. So stupid. Okay. Is it wrong for humans to use these surplus eggs? Question mark. Or to feed them to their cats, as discussed below? To raise citizen chickens living in chicken poo coops, producing eggs for human consumption, or for humans to feed to their pet cats. I'm sorry, I digress. Okay, let's... Can you understand why I use words like stupid and idiot when I talk about the discourse going on within veganism in 2016? Can you sympathize with why I rely on these coarse, crude, offensive words when addressing my fellow intellectuals in the movement? At Farm Sanctuary, consistent with their position on wool, human consumption of eggs is forbidden. Instead, they are fed back to the chickens. No comment. They feed the eggs back to the chickens. I will make no comment. We would argue, analogously to the wool discussion, that human use of eggs is not inherently exploitative. Humans could have chicken companions on the farm or in large backyards. Chickens with flourishing lives allowed plenty of scope to do what chickens like to do. Chickens who explore and play and form social bonds and raise young under the watchful eyes of humans who protect them, shelter them, and care for their food and medical needs. And meanwhile, humans could consume some of the chicken's eggs. Does anyone want to have this debate? Does anyone want to have an academic conference where vegans... This is... Oh my god. It's true that this relationship would in part be based on use. That is, many humans who would choose to have chicken companions would do so at least in part because they want some eggs. But this fact of use need not compromise the full protection of chickens' rights and community membership. As in the sheep case, our primary concern would be to ensure that mechanisms exist to protect their rights, etc. Yeah, you know what? Maybe I'm a bad person because I talk about this in a disrespectful or dismissive or contemptuous way. Maybe I'm a bad person because I laugh and I use such vulgar language as stupid and idiot. Maybe, you know what? Maybe keeping it real is going wrong in my case. Maybe I should come on here and fake it and pretend to have so much respect for people in these leadership positions in our movement. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I'm a bad person. But at least I'm not a fucking idiot.